Hi friends, in this video session we will be talking about the different formula auditing techniques. Now let's say somebody gave you a workbook or worksheet which has so many numbers thrown in. Some of them looks like forecast numbers, some of them assumptions, some of them actual numbers. Now if you were to start looking into the details, you would go line by line, isn't it? Let's say sales growth percentage has been provided, cost as a percentage of sales has been provided. Now at a single glance I cannot see which numbers are flowing from where. Is it a calculation based? If it is based on calculations or formulas, from which cell is it flowing into? So I would want certain techniques that can help me quickly decipher the information. The first and foremost technique is how many of these contain formulas. So if I go to formulas, and within which if I go and click on show formulas, at a single glance I can see which of these cells contain formula. So I can see some of them have been using average formula, some may have been linked to some other sheet, some looks like calculation, some division. If I click on the same button once again, show formulas, I go back to the previous scenario. Now since this is a very useful technique, it makes sense to know about its shortcut key. The shortcut key is Control and backtick key, which you can use by pressing Control and the backtick key, which is just on top of Tab key. So if I press that combination of key, I get the same effect. If you want to bring it back to the same old scenario, same combination of key to be pressed once again. So this is just to see at a single glance what all formula have been used. Now before I proceed, I want to highlight those cells which have formulas in them so that I can look at them in detail. So I choose the entire sheet, Control A, I press Control G, and I go to special. Special what? Special cells which have formulas in them. So some of them have been chosen. I can quickly go to home and color them in a different color. So all these yellow cells have formulas in them. That means all these blue cells are hard coded. Alright. So if I now click on this 858, double click, or let's say press function key F2, I can see that it contains previous sales reference, which is sales of last year, multiplied with into 1 plus 10%. So it effectively it is saying 100% plus 10% from this cell. So the sales growth is exhibiting 10%. 0% growth, same sales number should flow in. Now I want to look at those references, those links visually. So I say, after going back to the previous sales growth number, formulas, trace precedents. So it tells me in a visual way that which cell is it connected to. Now if I put my cursor on 858 and I say trace dependents, it will tell me on this cell how many other cells are dependent. So it talks about precedents, it talks about dependents. If you do not want to have those arrows, click on remove arrows. And in fact, if you click on let's say 987, and you double click on trace precedents, it will give precedents. Remove arrows. Similarly, let's say I want to color the precedent cells of 987 in orange. I would have to select those cells, right? So how do I do that? Because trace precedents will only give this visual arrows, not select the precedent cells. So let me remove arrows and let's take the help of a shortcut key. Let me choose 987. Let me use this shortcut key which says Control third bracket open. Automatically these two cells have been chosen. If I go to home and give it a different color, let's say instead of orange maybe green, you'll notice both of them turning into green. Similarly, if I choose 987 and I use this shortcut key, Control third bracket closed, it will talk about go to dependent cells, and if I go to fill color and make it let's say red, you'll notice all these red colored cells are dependent cells. You can also verify from formulas, going to precedents and talking about trace dependents. So Control G, apart from that, Control third bracket open and Control third bracket closed. Let me remove all arrows. Let me press Control Z. Oops, I saved it, so Control Z wouldn't work. So let me make sure none of them are in fill color yellow or red or green. So let me go to home, no fill. Alright. Now apart from this, I would also want to, let's say, select a cell, let's say this one, and look at the full history of this cell, that is all the precedents, direct and indirect, for which I'll be using this shortcut key. So Control Shift, third bracket open, and all the precedent cells have been chosen. Let me give it a different color. So notice all the precedent cells from wherever it is connected will be chosen. That means if I change this, it will also have an indirect impact on this one. Same goes for the Control Shift third bracket open. Now let's say one of these cells have links to some other sheet. So if I press Control third bracket open, it will only give me reference of this current sheet's cell reference, not the other sheet's cell reference. For that, let me choose this cell, go to formulas, and say trace precedents. You'll notice a change in icon. This icon represents that it might be taken from a different file or a different worksheet. Let me click on the dotted line. If I click on the dotted line, it will give me go to box. So if I choose that cell reference and say OK, it will take me there. Now you might be thinking that how do I go back using a shortcut key? So at this position where you have reached to a cell which has been linked, if I press F5 or Control G and I press OK, directly enter, it will take me back there. So sometimes if you have, let's say, chosen trace precedents or Control third bracket open, if you press F5 and enter, it will take you back to the same cell from where you started. This is a very effective technique if you're moving around different cells in a complex worksheet where, let's say, there are so many cells that are interconnected. So let me show you that once again. If I choose this cell, the one that I am going to color in green, if I press Control third bracket open, is not going to take me to the other sheet. So let me take the help of formulas, trace precedents, and then let me click on the dotted line. Let me choose this option and say OK. It has taken me to the other sheet. Now if I press F5 and straight away enter, it will take me back to this original cell. So these are the different techniques, shortcuts and buttons that can help you audit the data and see what's inside in each of these cells.